Hi there, Marshall Sutcliffe here at GP Las Vegas, and I'm going to crack a pack. All right, Modern Masters 2015. There's a foil in every pack. Anything could happen here. Let's see what we get for our token. This is a big deal. Soldier token? All right, that's fine. All right, first card, Mana Leak. Well, Mana Leak's great. I think that, if you're playing blue, you're going to play it almost every single time. Some of the better cards in the format come in the form of X spells, which Mana Leak is quite good against. They're also just a bunch of expensive cards, and if you happen to have it early in the game, you can counter some of their early to mid threats. Mana Leak's just really solid. It's a card I'm certainly going to consider first picking here, though if I had to guess, I would say it doesn't end up being our first pick. Next is Glint Hawk Idol. Really good in Affinity. Whenever another artifact enters the battlefield, it becomes a 2/2 flying bird. It can beat down. You can even do that sometimes at instant speed, depending on what you got going on. You can also just pay white mana, which is one of the colors that the Affinity deck is. It's blue and white. So Glinthawk Idol just sits there as an artifact. It's hard to interact with unless it becomes a creature. It adds to your Affinity and your Metalcraft. Really good card. Big fan of Glinthawk Idol. But it really does only go in that deck. I'm actually going to put it in my probably not list here as a first pick. Vigian Graft Mage. This is similar to Glinthawk Idol in that it only goes into one deck, though I think that the Graft Mage is a little worse in that deck than Glinthawk Idol is in its deck. This goes into basically the blue-green deck. You can do some pretty cool stuff with the untap ability. It does come up occasionally, but mainly you're playing it because it's got Graft 2. It's made up of +1/+1 counters that you can then proliferate to grow bigger, to move them around, to kind of abuse that mechanic. But this is just not one of the premier cards for that archetype, so I'm going to put it here. Otherworldly Journey, fine card. You can use it to save your creature from removal. You can even use it to get their creature out of the way for a turn so that you can beat down and kill them. Your creature gets pumped a little bit. It's arcane if that ends up mattering. But I'm not going to be first picking Otherworldly Journey. It's a card that you'll play sometimes, but it's just not worthy of a first pick. All right, Grim Affliction. I think that most black decks probably want a copy of Grim Affliction. It's instant speed, it costs 3 mana, it puts -1/-1 counter on a creature, and then you get to proliferate, so it effectively puts 2 on a creature, plus if you have any other proliferate shenanigans, you can abuse those as well. The funny part is I think the deck that wants this the most is the blue-green deck. I think it wants to splash for Grim Affliction so that it can really take advantage of proliferate, and also blue-green doesn't have good removal, and Grim Affliction's decent at least at killing cheap threats, so I think this is actually goes best in that deck, strangely. All right, here's Telling Time. I like cards that help smooth out my draws, but I have a hard time finding the time for this card because it's one of those things where these cards are so good in this set that you just don't need filler cards like this very often, so I don't plan on playing Telling Time too often, but if I do, I'm not sad about it. It's a really low impact card on my deck in both ways. All right, here is a Brute Force. This is Giant Growth in red. If you're trying to beat down, you probably play one of these things. It helps you out in combat. It can get through extra damage. It can protect your creatures from certain types of removal. It's fine. We're not first picking it. Plummet. Sideboard. I don't think you're going to be main decking Plummet in this format, so I'm just going to set that one here. This pack has not been great. I've got Mana Leak is the only card I'm really considering at this point. Glinthawk Idol, it's on the list, but I wouldn't be happy first picking that. Gut Shot, too low impact. I could see decks where you might want to sideboard this in, but I'm not main decking a Gut Shot. The fact that it's free just isn't that relevant. You only have to pay red mana for it anyway, and only doing 1 damage just means that the subset of creatures that it actually kills is so small that you don't want to main deck it unless you know you're going to be hitting a lot of those, and doing 1 damage to a player is not worth a card. All right, here is a Flayer Husk. This card goes nice in the Affinity deck as well. It gives you a small creature, a 1/1 for 1, and you can equip it over to your things. But mainly what it does is it's an artifact. That's it. It adds to your artifact count. It can help you get in a little extra damage too. Not a high impact card. All right, we're in the uncommons now, and we have hit our first high impact card, Cumulax here. Now, if I just showed you this part, you'd gasp at 8 mana and say that I thought this was a good card because it's a 5/4 with flying. But it's got affinity for artifacts. That means you're going to end up paying 4, 3, 5, something in that range pretty often. And even if you have to pay 5 for it, it's 5 mana for a 5/4 with flying. That's a fine deal. You would play that. And it's often cheaper. So this is actually one that I'm definitely going to look at. I'm going to put in the big pile here. This is one of the payoff cards for running cards like Flayer Husk and the Glenhawk Idol. All right, here's Vengeful Rebirth, a powerful if expensive sorcery in 2 different colors. You know, you get to get a card back from your graveyard to your hand, so that's a big deal. And then on top of it, you get to do a bunch of damage to a creature player. It's expensive, it's slow, but it's card advantage. It usually is a 2-for-1. You get a card back from your yard and you get to kill something, so that's pretty easy. I think the 5-color deck wants to run this and maybe the ramp deck, but I don't think that I want to first pick it. All right, here is an Air Servant. Now this brings up an interesting question of Air Servant versus Cumulax here, because the Air Servant is a lot more consistent. It's a 4/3 flyer for 5 mana no matter what, with a really nice ability of kind of clearing the skies for you. The Cumulax has a better top end. You can pay 3 mana for a 5/4 flyer, which is better. You know, it's full 1 bump up 4/3 to 5/4. I actually like Air Servant a little better because it goes in other decks. If you take the Cumulax, you're just not playing it unless your Affinity, excuse me, and Air Servant you will play even in Affinity or not. So that one's on my list, and it looks like the hits keep coming here. Now we've got 3 huge flyers, and this one's actually really interesting because this has the same stats as the Air Servant, as you can see here, as 4/3 flyer, but it costs a full mana less. It's got Metalcraft as well, which gives it an ability that can be okay, but just ignoring that, you'd much rather just play an Argent Sphinx than an Air Servant just for a 4/3 with flying. This ability is pretty relevant, but I'd much rather have it a turn early. So now all of a sudden, both of these have gotten bumped, and I'm looking at the Argent Sphinx first, but we still got our foil card. Ooh, Dimir Guildmage, that's a nice one. This guy has 2 really good abilities. You know, you can use it to reload your hand in the late game, or to start locking your opponent out in the late game as well. And then it's a 2/2 for 2 that if you're playing these 2 colors is very easy to cast. If you're not, it's pretty tough to splash. I don't think it's quite as high power level though as Argent Sphinx. Argent Sphinx isn't a bomb in the format, but it's quite strong, and I think a 4 mana 4/3 flyer is just what the doctor ordered here. I'm going to take Argent Sphinx.